Hey guys, it's Katie, and I'm here today to talk about my top 5 favorite books to read on a rainy day. As you guys might know, hopefully by this point, I am on hiatus due to other adventures going on in my life. So this video is actually inspired by one of my subscribers, Linda from Linda's World of Books, and because I asked a bunch of you guys to give me ideas of videos to film while I was no longer going to be around for a while. And this is one of the ideas that I got, and I am really excited to talk about this because one of my favorite types of weather to read in is rainy days. And since, we're in the summery, like late spring, early summery months, that there's going to be a lot of rain. So I figured, why not talk about my favorite books to read on a rainy day? So without further ado, let's launch right on in. So one of my favorite books to read on a rainy day is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. If you guys haven't read this book, basically it's a book that is from the classical canon that follows the life of this girl named Jane Eyre, all the way from her childhood all the way up to her adulthood and all of this stuff that she goes through in between. It's really hard to describe really what this book is about, except for that it just follows Jane's life and all of her trials and tribulations. But the one thing that you should be aware of is that it is a gothic romance novel. And so that means there's a lot of kind of spooky elements, and it's a very grim book at times. And I remember when I read it, because I had to read it, it was part of my summer reading for high school. And I read it during the summer, and it is honestly a great book for a rainy day because of the gothic-y, spooky aspects of it, and I just absolutely loved it. The writing is spectacular. It really sucks you in. I know a lot of people who don't like this book for a lot of reasons, and I don't pretend to understand some of them because it's just one of my favorite books. But if you've ever read Rebecca, it has a very similar feel to it in some ways. I was not a fan of Rebecca, but that's besides the point. But it has a similar feel to that, or Wuthering Heights, I think. I actually haven't read Wuthering Heights yet. I'm going to get on that one day, I promise. But Jane Eyre is just the perfect book to read on a rainy day. It's a big, thick tome that you can just curl up with a nice warm beverage, tea or coffee or whatever your preferred warm beverage is, under a nice blanket, sit in a chair and just read with the natural lighting of the grayness and the lush greenness that's outside, and just enjoy the show. Enjoy the book, whatever. You get the point. Enjoy that tale. And the second book that I'm going to recommend to you guys for a rainy day is The Bones of You by Laura Stone. This book is a contemporary NA romance novel. I guess it could technically be considered to be YA, but I classify it more as NA, new adult, for those of you who don't know. And it follows these two boys who fell in love in high school. They were high school sweethearts, and then it's kind of like a 5 years later situation where they're broken up and they're doing their own respective things. One boy is in New York performing, getting ready to perform a show on Broadway, I believe, and the other is in England getting his master's degree in psychology, I believe. And it's just kind of a book about second chances. One day, the boy in England gets a video of his former boyfriend performing on, it was kind of like one of those morning shows, and it brings back all of these memories, and due to a lot of different circumstances, they end up meeting up again and kind of rekindling all of these feelings that they had for each other way back when. And it's just a book all about second chances, and it's full of so many lovely things. I read it when it was pouring outside. I was sitting in my dorm room hiding because it was a day of just big drinking fest at my college. And I was not about that scene. Plus, as I said, the weather was nasty outside. So instead of doing any of that, I just sat in my room and literally read this story all day. It was just so captivating and just draws you right in. And the characters are just so lovable and just all around wonderful. And I can't help but recommend this book enough for a lovely rainy day, because it's one of those books that just cheers you right up despite the gloom and nastiness that might be going on outside. Then the third book I'm going to talk about is The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. This is a book that's this is a historical fiction / gothic horror / gothic romance / thriller novel. It's all kinds of things put into one. And I'm going to do my best to describe what this book is about because it's kind of complicated. Okay, so it is a sort of Dracula retelling, but basically how it works is our main protagonist, who does not have a name, we know it's a female, goes into her father's study one day and discovers this book with a dragon symbol thing on the cover, and she is intrigued by this book. And basically from that point onwards, it just takes her on this crazy journey of not only her past, but also another person's past. So we actually follow 3 timelines throughout the book. We have the present day, which takes place in the 1980s, and we start in Amsterdam. And then we also follow a timeline in, I think it's like the 1950s, which is her mother's timeline, her mother and her father's timeline. And then we follow a timeline from, I think, the 1930s or something around that period of time. And each of those timelines gives you an insight into this overarching story. So, now that you know that there are these like 3 timeline adventures that are going on, it's an adventure, okay? Basically what you need to know is, as I said, it's a big kind of retelling of the Dracula myth, but it's drawing on actual history and more on the like Vlad and the Impaler side of things rather than the actual vampire myth, but it like intertwines all of it together in this one epic tome. It's really complicated to explain, I'm sorry, but the reason I'm recommending it to you for a rainy day is because it's spooky, it's suspenseful, it's interesting, and you will want to keep reading. Like it's dense at times, but it's absolutely captivating and just fascinating. I will never forget when I read it a couple of years ago. This is the one and only time that I've read it because I do want to reread it at some point. I just was madly in love with this book. I was all I could talk about for like a month. I was just really into it. Arguably, out of all of the books that I am recommending to you today, this is the one I would recommend to you the most. Like, it's just so well done, and I love everything about it. So go read the thing. And the 4th book I want to talk to you about today is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. I don't know if you can kind of sense the theme here. I'm recommending to you guys a lot of historical fiction and mystery, kind of thriller-y books. It's just because they have the best atmospheric feeling for a rainy, stormy day. And I just the thing about Agatha Christie, and the reason I am deliberately recommending And Then There Were None to you, is because of the overall atmospheric feel to it. I'm not recommending any of the other Agatha Christie books to you for the purposes of this video. Only And Then There Were None. And Then There Were None is arguably one of her most well-known and well-loved works. And basically, just brief premise, if you guys are familiar with the rhyme, The 10 Little Indians, there is a murder mystery based on that. And each person that gets brought to this like island thing for this special getaway has a purpose for being there. And just Agatha Christie is always just a phenomenal mystery writer. She always keeps you on the edge of your seat. She always keeps you guessing until the very last second. Just, I absolutely love that about her, because if you don't know that about something about me, 95% of the time I can guess plots like within the first couple of pages or at least halfway through the book. With Agatha Christie's books, a lot of the times it takes me a little bit longer. And that's just because of the way that she writes her books, the way she structures them. Just, they're so good. And then There Were None, as I said, it just has a wonderful stormy and eerie vibe that is perfect for a rainy, stormy day. And I would definitely recommend that one. And then last but not least, I'm going to recommend An Irish Country Doctor by Patrick Taylor. This book is a light, fluffy contemporary. Like, it is literally Hallmark material put in book form. It is so just lovely for a rainy day. It is perfect for a rainy day. And basically what this book is about, well, it's actually a series, but I'm only talking about the first book. It follows our main protagonist, Barry Laverty, as he goes to apprentice with this grumpy, crotchety country doctor named Fingal Flaherty O'Reilly. And this takes place in Northern Ireland in the 1960s, I believe. And once Barry gets there, he's just sucked into all of the drama of country life. Whether there are people who are hypochondriacs or just watching Dr. O'Reilly do his practice in his own crazy way. He also falls in love in the process. Like, it's just the cutest, purest book ever. And it's also hysterical. It's so funny. It's so lighthearted, and it's just perfect because Ireland is a pretty rainy place a lot of the times, especially in the fall and the spring and just year round. What am I even saying? And honestly, looking at the green outside with all of the rain, because everything gets greener when it's raining outside, and reading this lovely book that takes place in Northern Ireland in the country, it just transports you to Ireland and to the place that you're reading about. And it just allows you to immerse yourself in this crazy, fun world full of hilarity and lovely humanity and all of that stuff. And it's just super cute and will not fail to make you smile on a lovely rainy day. So anyway, those are the 5 books that I'm going to recommend to you guys for a rainy/stormy day. I hope that if you've read them, that you enjoyed them, and that if you haven't read them and are planning on reading them, that you hopefully think about reading them on a rainy day, because they're the perfect atmospheric read for it. But if you have read them or are planning on reading them, feel free to come talk to me down below in the comments or contact me on social media. My DMs are still open despite me being on hiatus. And I will respond or talk to you when I can. And that's about all I've got for you guys today. So as always, you know the drill. I have both of my social media links down below. I have a Twitter, which is @ASeaOfTomes, which is the same as my handle here. And I also have a Goodreads, which is also linked down below, so you can go over and see all of my thoughts on the books that I've been reading and follow along with my progress before I come and scream about them over here to you guys. And I will catch you later in another video soon. Bye!